Homeland season 1, it was kind of insane to watch from our point because it's not very often that a show gets pretty much universally liked by critics, but it seemed to do that. Where were you guys in the writing process when the show actually premiered?
You know, I think the show premiered when we were filming episode 6 the weekend. That's when the first reviews started coming in. And in fact, the very first review I read was a Newsweek review. And I'm completely forgetting the guy's name who wrote it, but I wrote him a love letter back because it was such a lovely review. And you know, the good part about it, we were able to do 6 episodes before we got our heads swelled. And we were all very suspicious of the universal acclaim. I mean, we kept waiting for someone to, call our bluff here and say, this isn't working. That we never got. We'll probably get it in the second season.
Well, after getting all that acclaim, are you guys thinking, okay, what do we do to keep that? What do we do to keep the audience suspended? What do we do to keep this momentum going after having such a widely praised season 1?
That's a very interesting question because, last year really built and the tension and the anxiety grew. And where we got to at the end was so heightened and vibrating at a level that if we start the second year at that same place, by episode 3 or 4, we're going to be in La La Land doing absurd stories.
Right.
So our feeling is that we have to throttle back a little bit. And again, it's 6 months later, our characters are in different places. Let's build again slowly and deliberately to another climax. So, that's going to be our narrative strategy, which is not to say that there aren't going to be twists and turns, that there aren't going to be interesting dynamics that we put our characters in, but we're not going to get to the place where Brody's wearing a suicide vest in episode 2.
Right. Well, how much has changed for these characters if it's 6 months later?
Well, a lot has changed for these characters. I mean, I'll give you an example. First of all, Carrie. If you think about Carrie has now checked herself into a mental hospital.
Right.
Decided to pursue professional help for herself in a way she's never done before. Get herself on a proper course of medication and probably do some more ECT stuff.
Right.
So she's going to use all the tools of the mental health profession to get her to a place of equilibrium and stasis. Now that's not a place we've seen her before.
Right.
So that's where she's going to be when we first find her. And the question is, I think the audience is going to be asking this question. I think the people around her are going to be asking this question. And I think she's going to be asking this question, which is, am I better off in this sort of equilibrium than I was flying so close to the sun? And do I miss that? And am I okay existing in this kind of much less heightened state?
Well, and also, given what happened with her, and given that at the final moments that she was kind of remembering what Brody yelled out, and she kind of, the pieces clicked right before she started that, is she going to think she's crazy all over again if she starts to suspect him again?
Right. Well, we're not. I don't think we're going there exactly, but I take your point about, I think that there's an audience expectation that at some point this year, this coming season, she's going to be made aware that she was right all along. And I think the audience expects that, and I think they deserve that, and they will get that hopefully in the second season.
How far are you into the writing of season 2?
We are just writing the first episode, but we've broken about 3 or 4 stories. 4 stories.
Are any of the more supporting characters getting a bit of a time in the sun?
I think Virgil is going to get a little bit more prominent place this year than he did last year. The vice president will have a more prominent place. Abu Nazir will probably have a more prominent place. These are all characters that we've actually made, regulars this season.
Right.
And then we're going to introduce some new people too.
And is the plan to have all of season 2 focus on the Brody questionable status thing, or are you guys trying to introduce more storylines in terms of terrorism, etc.?
I think both, but I do think that the Brody-Carrie dynamic is the heart of the second season again.
Could they ever be romantically together again? Because it felt like that the weekend was such a phenomenal episode, and it seemed to kind of break them in a way that they couldn't be repaired. and yet they seem to still be drawn to each other in a weird way.
I think it's a classic tragic relationship. That's what it is. I don't think that if they ever took up house together, it would be a very successful, enterprise.
I mean, if you start a relationship the way they started their relationship, it's not really the healthiest of situations.
It's not. I completely agree with you.
Is there anything else you're really excited for people to see in season 2 that you can share?
We're just excited to get up and running again, and to throw our work out there and see how it's responded to. That's really what I'm most excited about.